Welcome back to Clipboard Electronics. Today I'm going to go over a couple of things that I think you should know to get started with Arduino. Now, I am going to answer in this video the most common question in every hobby everywhere, which is, what do I buy to get started? And you can see some of it here. This is everything I'm going to go over. But I want to go over a couple of things to save you some time first. First thing is, if you have a specific project that you want to do, this is not the right video for you. Stop watching now and go find out how to do your project. Go make a list of parts, order the parts for that project, and do that project. Specific projects and experiments that you see on YouTube and Instructables are really great ways to get started. So if you're going to do that, don't watch this video. This video is for people who just want to get started tinkering around and they don't kind of know really what they want to do. Maybe some home automation, maybe some robotics, playing around with this and that. The second thing that I want to say is, I know that what should I buy to get started is the most common question that you'll ever encounter in any hobby. And I do a lot of hobbies, and so I run into this question a lot. What do I need to buy to get started? And I always tell people that's not the right question. Really, you should be thinking about, what do I need to learn to get started? But in this case, specifically with physical computing, you do need some physical computing devices to play around with to get started. And that's just kind of a fact of the hobby. First, I want to show you something. If you can find one of these experimenters kits, like the ARDX kit that I reviewed years ago, then pick up one of those. Especially if it comes with an Arduino and you get it kind of at a discount. That's a great way to just get a hold of an Arduino and some parts and start playing around. You'll save a lot of money if you buy a kit instead of purchasing individual parts. But so if you want to purchase individual parts and get started, let's just talk about what I have right here. Obviously, you're going to need to start with some microcontrollers, some Arduinos, and some basic parts. Now, my first Arduino was actually one of these nano Arduinos, which I got at Radio Shack because it was the cheapest one. And I didn't know if I was really going to be into it, so I said, alright, let's not spend a lot of money. The Nano is fairly capable, so it worked for what I was doing at the time, which was making a blinking lights display, which you can see on my channel, again, years ago. I also really like these sort of knockoff Arduinos. This is a Velleman that I got at Fry's Electronics. And these work great. I've used these for projects and they work fine. So you're going to need something like that. And then you're going to need some basic supplies like breadboards are really handy. I pretty much don't do any projects without a breadboard of some kind. So definitely pick up a few of those. These are really cheap. I just bought a 3-pack of these for like $5. So they're really cheap. You're going to need some jumper wires like this to set up your breadboards. You'll also need some kind of power supply for your Arduino. So this, for example, is a 9-volt battery that plugs directly into the port on an Arduino Uno. And this, for example, gives you 4 AA's, 6 volts worth of power through leads. So you're going to need something like that to run your Arduino when it's not plugged into USB. Aside from that, physical computing really is about taking inputs from the real world and translating those into outputs in the real world. You sense temperature and you display it on a screen. Very simple. Input and output. So think about what kind of things you're interested in sensing and buy sensors to do that stuff. Here, for example, is a sound sensor, right? And I love these breakout boards. You can get all kinds of breakout boards with headers already on them, and the sensor wired up from Adafruit, SparkFun, Amazon. I got this one at Fry's. Right, and you can plug that thing into your board directly, but the breakout board makes it easier. So look around for stuff like that. This is a light sensor. Here's a couple of accelerometers that I got from Adafruit. They're a really good source for Arduino parts. Here is a humidity and temperature sensor, which is this brand OSEP. Nice little compact unit there. Here's some more input devices. This is the ultrasonic sensor. I love these because they look like robot eyes. These are really fun to play around with. Here is a motion sensor, infrared motion sensor. And this thing you don't even need an Arduino for, really. You can play around with this thing just picking up the outputs directly off of it. And it is designed to run like a light, like a simple motion activated light. You can set up that just with this part by itself, but you can also send the signal to an Arduino, and that's what I'm doing with a project. So I picked up a couple of those. Here's an example of infrared transmitter and receiver. Transmitter's that infrared LED, and this is an infrared phototransistor here. Here's another common input. Just a simple momentary button. Make sure you get some of these. Here's a light sensor. So this is a different kind of light sensor. It's much more simpler than this one, but these basically work the same way. So you might look at options. If you find two different styles of sensor, pick up both and see which one you like better when you play around. So that's the input side of things. Now, oh, I got some resistors there too. Yeah, you'll need a bunch of resistors. Buy a resistor pack of 1/4 watt resistors probably, and just keep those on hand, because you'll need these to control current levels in various circuits that you build, and it's kind of different every time. So now on to output devices. Now remember, you got to take these inputs from all these sensors and translate it into something that's useful to a person or another device, drive another device or something like that. So you need some output side stuff, and one of the most common ones is this piezoelectric buzzer. You can use this to create simple sounds, or you can just send a voltage to it and it kind of buzzes. This is a single digit 7-segment display. These are very easy to use. They're designed to fit onto a breadboard. And these are probably the single most common output device that people use when working with Arduino. Simple LEDs. Now here's an example of like a complex output device. This is a SD card shield. And that's the last kind of thing that I want to go over, is if you have a need for logging or wireless capability or something complicated like that, look through the shields that you can find on Adafruit or whatever, because attaching an SD card with a shield is definitely the way to go. Now there are more complicated output devices, such as 4-digit 7-segment displays, double line LCD dot matrix displays, TFT displays, things like that that you can use. But I strongly suggest learning to use the basic output devices. Think about light and sound. That's what we're doing. Creating light and sound with speakers, LEDs. That's way easier. And when you master that, then you'll find it a lot easier to program for those other displays like the dot matrix and the TFT display and so on. The last thing that I suggest you get is some way to organize your projects. And this video series takes its name from my method of doing that, which I went over in a previous video. But get some clipboards. If you don't want to shell out for that, get a cardboard box. Get something to organize your projects so that you don't have to carry all these parts, or even just this breadboard with these cords around your house when you go to plug into your computer and all that other stuff. So before I leave you, I want to just go over this. This is an example of a project that you can do with some of the sensors that I laid out. This is a combination motion sensor, temperature sensor, real-time clock, and SD card, so that I can log motion, temperature, and time to the SD card over a long period of time for reasons that I have. So that's an example of how you can use these very basic sensors and create something useful and organize it up on a clipboard. So everything that I went over in this video, all these sensors, the shields, the clipboard, everything is available from Amazon, SparkFun, and Adafruit. Those are the three companies that I suggest you patronize if you have to go online to get stuff. Now, if you have an electronics store like Fry's Electronics or something, you can definitely go in and find some nice stuff. But if you have to shop online, Amazon, SparkFun, Adafruit, those are your go-to guys for this kind of stuff. And thank you very much for watching Clipboard Electronics. Now that you're armed with a little bit of knowledge, let's get out there and do some physical computing.